What's going on, guys? What's going on, Tide Squad? What's going on, everybody? So, Victor Wembanyama had a career game. He scored 50 points against the Washington Wizards, and I'm just going to say this: Victor Wembanyama is probably the next Tim Duncan for the first franchise, because when Tim Duncan was there, when Tony Parker was there, when Tony Parker was there, when Ginobili was there, when Bruce Bowen was there, like I can name a lot of first players, but Victor Wembanyama is the fourth player to score 50 points in the in the NBA this year. And I think Victor Wembanyama, because coming into the NBA, Victor Wembanyama was in the conversation. Coming into the NBA, Victor Wembanyama was the first ever talked about rookie since coming into the NBA. Victor Wembanyama Victor Wembanyama was the most talked about center in the NBA draft, and the Spurs drafted him. And he's going to be in that conversation with first players like Tim Duncan, like Tony Parker, like Ginobili, like Bruce Bowen. He's going to be in that conversation because I think the Spurs has gotten a good player, a good franchise player in Victor Wembanyama, because you got a great coach in Popovich. You got a great coach in Popovich and Greg Popovich that can coach Victor Wembanyama, because he coached Tony Parker. He coached Tony Parker. He coached Ginobili. He coached Bruce Bowen. He coached Steve Kerr when Steve Kerr was playing in the NBA. But the first got a franchise player for the future. And I think with Victor Wembanyama dropping 50 points, it's amazing to do and be in that conversation. Like, coming into the draft, he was the most talked about player since LeBron James in his draft class. Like, just think about that. Being the most talked about player 2 years ago when you came into the draft 2 years ago, and being the most talked about player in your draft class since LeBron James, the one of the greatest NBA players in LeBron James, you were talked about 2 years ago in your draft and people were comparing you to LeBron James. And you have one of the greatest coach ever in Greg Popovich. You have one of the greatest coach ever in Greg Popovich that coached Tim Duncan, that coached Tony Parker, that coached Ginobili, that coached Bruce Bowen, and now coaching Victor Wembanyama in that young first group. This is amazing to see. And having a point guard in Chris Paul, and having a coach in Greg Popovich is amazing to see. It's amazing to see and amazing to have on your team, because you have a point guard, one of the greatest point guards in Chris Paul. You have one of the greatest point guards in Chris Paul. that knows the game, and that will help Victor and that will give them easy, and that will make easy money buckets, and that will throw Victor loves. It's amazing to see. It's amazing. Coming back from the Olympics, Victor Wembanyama had to be the most talked about because France finished with silver, and I think that what got Victor more motivated, because being in the Olympics, being in the Olympics really gave him some motivation. Really gave him some motivation for that. And I do think when we look at it, like Victor his last few games, 34 points, and now a 50-point highest game, like the last player to score 50. The last player to score 50 was Paolo Banchero. So Victor Wembanyama and Paolo Banchero joins LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and Shaquille O'Neal in that group of history with 50 points or more. They join that group with 50 points or more. Again, that's LeBron James, Jordan, Carmelo, and Kobe and Carmelo. I think them joining that club with that 20, both of these players joining that club, and now Victor Wembanyama having a 50-point game against a Washington Wizards team, that the Washington Wizards are going to be the Washington Wizards. And I think you should, when you have a 7-1 center that can shoot the ball, that can be like a point guard that can play both ways, be a point guard and actually be a point center, because now we call big men that bring up the basketball point centers in the NBA. When we look at that, and we look at what Victor Wembanyama has done, scoring 50 points this year, scoring 50 points against the Washington Wizards, we could see more 50-point games in Victor Wembanyama's career. We could see more 50-point games, more 20 and 50, more 20 rebounds games, more 50 rebounds games. He's going to be in that conversation with Shaq, with the greats like Shaq, LeBron, Carmelo, D-Wade, Chris Bosh, Shaq, Kobe, Vince Carter, Chauncey Billups. He's going to be in that conversation. I would say Victor Wembanyama scoring 50 points and being the fourth youngest player in the NBA to do it, it's amazing to do, because when you break records like this, when you have 50-point games and break records like this, and put your name in the history books, that is amazing to see. But guys, sub if you're new, and never give up your dreams. And I hope all of you guys are safe out there. And stay blessed, everybody, and peace.